Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Hello, everyone. An extra moment to take your seats, please. My name is Bob Jesse. It's a wonderful occasion to welcome you to this memorial and celebration of the life of Anne Shulgin. Thank you so much for being here and doing whatever it took for you to be here. You honor Anne and the community by your presence. We'll be hearing from a number of people sharing stories and reflections about Anne, but I'll begin with a very brief comment, which is just to acknowledge her as a mother, a grandmother, a wife, a friend to many, a researcher, a writer, and courageous. Not only all of those things, but all of those things and a woman, a pioneering woman in psychedelics. Please welcome, to my left, Mariavittoria Mangini, who is another pioneering woman in psychedelics, who in visible ways and in not so visible ways has advanced the field that we care so much about. Please welcome Maria.
I'm also immeasurably delighted to be here. And I have the privilege of giving you a few announcements about the festivities. There are, I'm sure, a great many stories about Anne that we would all like to be able to share with one another now that we're gathered together. And there will be time of several hours after the formal part of the presentation for us to gather and to be able to share those stories. So please save them and bring them to that reception. I wanted to also tell you that you may be photographed. There's a film crew and a couple of still camera photographers here. And so if you don't wish to be photographed, please step away from the photography. And now it's our pleasure to begin announcing the speakers for this event. The first one is Dr. David Presti. And I want to introduce him to the stage right now.
Thank you for being here. My name is David Presti. Yep, that's it. I teach here at UC Berkeley and have been a long time friend of the Shulgin family. So here we are, in July 2023 at the University of California in Berkeley. And Anne's husband, Sasha, was born, grew up, and educated in this neighborhood. Anne, on the other hand, still a teenager, already cosmopolitan and worldly. Aotearoa, Sicily, Trieste, Texas, Cuba, Canada, then San Francisco. Cactus Spiral and Golden Gate Park, already sharing molecular alchemy, 3,4,5-trimethoxyphenethylamine. And there were other lives to be lived, family, children, Jungian archetypes, dreams, shadow. Married the alchemist on the 4th of July in a ceremony conducted by an employee of the DEA. An event to truly celebrate every year thereafter. Co-creator of molecular music, lovely muse of chemical synthesis, assessor of a new molecule's psychic effects, or lack thereof. Was there heart? Was there light? Was there sacred sensuality? A gifted healer. It came so naturally. Mentor to many. Created a container for souls, a place of hope during times of darkness. Anchored and nurtured a community, source of sustenance and lasting friendships for many. Remembered the spiral. Thank you, Anne.
Please welcome Meihong Xu.
I'm wearing Anne's necklace today. I can feel her energy here with us. Hi, my name is Meihong Xu. I'm a therapist. Back in 2016, while I was receiving training at CPTR of CIIS, Anne most kindly agreed to be my mentor. That year, I was blessed to have spent many beautiful afternoons with Anne in her living room in the farm. On my graduation day, Anne graced me with her loving presence and a beautiful red rose. Over the years, Anne was a beloved mentor. She's also like a soul mother to me. When Anne passed away last year, I had tears falling down my face. I also had peace in my heart. I kept hugging this book that Anne gave me when we first met. On the title page, she wrote, "Dear May, finally, we meet again. From the deepest part of my being, I know we'll meet yet again." And Anne's legacy continues. She lives on in our heart and in our dedication to living life fully, more aware, more awake, and more courageous. Thank you.
Shulgin was the kindest, wisest, and most perceptive woman imaginable. A wonderful friend. Her advice and humor were invaluable. She and Sasha were the most inspiring couple, and I miss them dreadfully. One could feel their love for each other till the end. Jamie and I first met them at Usha in 1993, and afterwards, for a number of years, we shared a campsite with them at Burning Man. Occasionally, they came and stayed at Beckley, including for his 80th birthday. I feel so lucky to have known them and miss them deeply. How wonderful now to have Wendy maintaining their memory at the historic and somewhat chaotic Shulgin farm, with its unique cutting-edge lab, which produced innumerable magical compounds, which, after Sasha, Anne would most often be the first to try. What an incredible couple. How lucky the psychedelic world has been to have them as a lasting icon of loyalty, inspiration, and love.
Please welcome Howard Kornfeld.
My name is Howard Kornfeld, and I met Anne and Sasha at their home almost 40 years ago, and we became fast friends. As I reflect on life and friendship, I realize that Anne Shulgin had a pivotal and wonderful influence on my evolution as both a doctor and an aspiring social change maker. Her husband's 1983 Santa Barbara talk discussed two contrasting and balancing impulses in humanity. Sasha linked the discovery of psychedelic molecules, an example of eros, the life-giving principle, to the escalation of nuclear weapons, an example of thanatos, the death-wishing principle. Anne's warm and perceptive being drew me into a tribe and a matrix of cherished friendships. Sasha's ideas of linking the psychedelics and the nuclear have coalesced for me into a beacon. I will always treasure Anne's clarity, deeply ethical nature, and healing aura, even during her last days. My personal life opened up when I was a college student and I had a psychedelic experience. My life opened up again as a young doctor when I was able to learn how to wage peace against nuclear weapons. Anne and Sasha helped me bring these two branches of wisdom together. Thank you.
Please welcome Rick Doblin.
Hey. Thank you. Well, I'm Rick, and I've been devoting about the last 41 years of my life to developing the creation that Anne and Sasha helped usher into the world, into a FDA-approved prescription medicine, and with that, all sorts of other psychedelics as well. When we think about MDMA, we think about it as fostering experiences of love, experiences of connection, of self-acceptance. We think about it as ecstasy, as a party drug. But what most impressed me about Anne, and that really has left a big lasting impression, was her interest in the use of MDMA to deal with our shadow. And I think that really grounded the entire movement, that all of us had to recognize that in addition to feelings of connection, that we really need to go deep into the parts of ourselves that we suppress or that we split off from ourselves. And I always look to Anne as a leader in this idea that we should take this incredible acceptance, this molecule, that what it does for us, and move into the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves, and then come together in a more unified way. And for that, I'm deeply grateful for Anne. Yeah. Bye.
Please welcome Stacy Schaefer.
Hi. I'm an anthropologist and a professor emerita, and Anne and Sasha were friends and colleagues. I met Anne and Sasha at the first Plants, Shamans, and States of Consciousness conference organized by Manolo and Donna Torres in November 1992. I was a fresh, budding, newly graduated anthropologist working with the Wijarika, or the Huichol people. From the start, I was in awe of Anne. She seemed to me to be of royalty. Anne was self-assured, a professional, and a respected woman in the psychedelic field. I admired Anne, and she was a mentor for me as I gingerly waded into this multidisciplinary field. It was so comforting for me to know she was there cheering me on. Sasha too, but this is about Anne. Subsequently, we hung out at conferences in Europe and Canada and Palenque, Mexico, and the Shulgin farm, and Anne loved Huichol art. Anne, by example, showed that women have a vital part in the psychedelic field. Anne gave me courage as a woman and validation that studying women and female aspects in psychedelic research was greatly needed. In 2005, Jim and I asked Sasha to marry us, and when he gave the thumbs up, Anne said, "That's wonderful, we'll have a wedding," followed by a lunch at the house. And with fairy godmother delight, she and Tania provided the most beautiful wedding and lunch, and Anne was the best wedding planner ever. Dear Anne, I hold you close to my heart. Thank you, and for all you have given to me and so many others. See you on the other side when it's time. Thank you.
I'm going to read for Usha Raetze, who is not able to be here today. Usha, many of you may know, is the widow of Nick Sand. Anne was a very bright light in the psychedelic community. Her and Sasha's home became a focal point where we would gather together every year. I was first introduced to Anne through Pikal, which was given to me in London by my friend Nicholas Saunders. It was Anne's and Sasha's love story that greatly inspired me. I loved how she wrote about and was surprised by the chapter, The Spiral, which has also happened to me every night as a child. I felt a sisterly connection with her, and I truly hope in some way that we shall meet again. Bless Tania and Greg for taking such good care of her and Sasha. I love you, Anne, and always will. With gratefulness, Usha. Now, Tania and Greg Manning, for years, who lived at the Shulgin's home and were their daily caretakers and collaborators of Anne's and Sasha's, in case you didn't know. But that was from Usha Raetze.
Please welcome Earth and Fire Erowid.
Hi, I'm Fire.
I'm Earth.
And we're the co-founders of Erowid Center. We first met Anne in 1996 at the Entheobotany Conference in San Francisco.
And as we got to know them, I had a thing that my father told me a lot when I was a child, and it told both of us when we were in high school that we should actively try throughout our lives to get to start and maintain relationships with people of every age.
So as we got to know Sasha and Anne, we would travel to conferences around the world, and we got to be pretty good friends with them. And along with that came the realization that when we were in college, one of the main reasons why we started Erowid was because what we felt was really missing, what we really wanted and couldn't find, was information from people much older than us about what they thought about their first use of psychedelics when they were in college.
People who took psychedelics in college in the 60s and 70s, why weren't there lots of stories about what people thought about it?
So Anne and Sasha were some of the first people of the age of my parents who we got to know and talk to about those sorts of issues. And they eventually got to be good enough friends that they trusted us enough to put in charge of their archiving project. So we have been for the last number of years working to help archive all of their documents. So we are nearly done scanning 250,000 documents from their collection. And one of the things that I've realized recently is that my relationship with Anne helped me improve my relationship with my mother and my ability to talk to her about psychedelics, because I had a mentor who was older than me who I could learn to speak to a different generation. And I had a fabulous chance to talk to Anne at Easter of 2022 for 30 minutes one-on-one, and it was really a lovely time. And Anne died a year ago. Earth's mother died a year before that, and my mother died...
2 weeks before Anne.
2 weeks before Anne, and my mother died 6 weeks ago. And I will be forever grateful to Anne for helping me to communicate better with my mother. Thank you.
Please welcome Mitchell Gomez.
Hi, my name is Mitchell Gomez. 2008, recently graduated from college. Rick Doblin invited me to come camp at Entheon Village at Burning Man. 2-city block camp. I got there in the middle of the night, had no idea where I was supposed to set up, so I picked a spot and tied my tent off, and the next day I realized my tent next to me was Rick, and the RV I was tied to was Sasha and Anne, so I just admired from a distance for as long as I could remember, since I had been basically a child. That camp, being around just hundreds of people making a living within psychedelic culture, being a part of this community, was what really made me decide that that was a doable thing. It's a thing that I wanted to do, a thing that was possible. And I learned a lot of lessons that year, but the thing that I think I most learned from watching Sasha and Anne was that the main way that you can navigate the world is just by being unapologetically who you are. And if you're just who you are, the world will see that, the world will respect that, and that is the way to provide value to community. And so I've really tried to embody that as much as I can. And there's an awful lot of people in that camp that I miss, but I will always just treasure the memories of seeing Anne and seeing Sasha and seeing how they related to each other and to the world. And I really now aspire to be the sort of person that you have to rent a 2,000 person venue for my memorial. And so, yeah, thank you.
Please welcome Paul Daley.
Well, I met Sasha Shulgin 46 years ago, and I don't know what I was thinking, but it took me another 20 years to kind of cycle back to the farm and the community and to meet Anne. Another 10 years elapsed, and I found myself now working with Sasha and kind of invading their household, bringing instruments and loud noises and strange music. But I have always been struck with their radical welcoming and radical acceptance. It seemed like it was poured on me, but on every other face that came in the house. And that's been an inspiration for me. I don't have a lot to add to what everyone else has said, but to just say that these two people were like second sets of parents to me, and they really changed my life, and I've been enriched beyond measure just knowing them. Thanks.
Now this is going to be a little different because I am supposed to be introducing a recording of or reading a message from Ricci Coddington. But I had a long conversation with Ricci yesterday, and we agreed that it might be preferable just to bring her here. Even though she's on another continent, she's certainly enough of an adept to pull it off, and with this congregation of people, we should be able to pull her in. She knows we're doing this right now. She was a dear sister of Anne's, the participant and co-conspirator in a lot of wonderful adventures, many trips to odd supermarkets and coffee shops where important bags of groceries were exchanged, and Adam might have been in the trunk. So let's think about Ricci with the deep and abiding love that we have for both Anne and for Ricci for having taken the role of guiding us forward in the realms that they are such adepts in traveling. For just a moment. Ricci Coddington. We love you, Rick, and Jack too, and we know that all of our love surrounds you, and the same love that surrounds Anne surrounds you.
Please welcome Chime Lhamo.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Daley. Good afternoon. My name is Chime Lhamo, a longtime caretaker for Anne and Sasha. I don't know if anything I say will do any justice to what Anne means to me, and what she does for her family and community goes without saying much. I try not to cry. There is many reasons why I love Anne. She's the most beautiful, kind, and generous woman I have ever met. She has always been so supportive, understanding, and loving and caring to me and everyone around her, and always had an ocean of love and compassion to give to others and really look up to her. Anne and I have a really lovely relationship. Whenever I was feeling uneasy and down, she would give me medicine or advice, and always gives the best advice. She was always like a mother figure to me, and never makes me feel like I just work for her, rather make me feel like her family. During the 12 years I have worked with Anne, I made some great memories that have stayed with me and throughout my lifetime, and will be remembered in our hearts forever. The gratitude and unconditional love she has showered us with always remain with us, and I hope that we will continue to pass it on to others. I miss them every day, Sasha and Anne. I love Sasha, and the love Sasha and Anne had for each other is truly inspiring. May you both have a good time up there, sipping a hot cup of tea and a glass of red wine and enjoying our classical music. I love you both. Thank you.
Please welcome Janis Phelps.
Hello, I am Janis Phelps, a longtime friend and collaborator with Anne. Anne Shulgin was devoted to the betterment of humanity. She was dedicated to bringing whimsy, generosity of spirit, clear-eyed critical thinking, humility, and forbearance to all human concerns. When Anne smiled toward you, it was with a penetrating gaze, laughing eyes, and a stately carriage. Her quick wit was altogether precise, gentle, and visionary. When her clear and embodied gifts were pointed out to her, she invariably demurred and reported that she was simply doing what came naturally. This was a profound teaching that she did with aplomb and constantly, that we all have the innate capacity to respond to life's slings and arrows with grace, courage, humor, and most importantly, with love and humility. Such is Anne's influential legacy that it can be felt simply by looking at any photo of Anne, as you saw earlier, with her eyes lit up and aglow with love and with the deep comedy within the tragedies of life. When you act bravely with good humor and loving kindness, feel Anne giving you a wink and a nod of recognition of your natural gifts that moves hearts and minds toward our highest potential. We are transforming consciousness by wisely doing so. In those moments, Anne is steadfastly winking at us and saying a cosmic yes. Do it more. Thank you.
Next up, we have a video excerpt from Connie Littlefield, the filmmaker, from her film Better Living Through Chemistry.
I was born in New Zealand. My father was an American consul. We traveled around the world. Most of my childhood was spent in Italy, which was a wonderful place to grow up. And I have had a brother, 2 years younger. We left on a refugee ship, the last refugee ship out of Italy, at the beginning of World War II. And I've been married 3 times, have 4 wonderful, exceptionally marvelous children, 8 grandchildren, and I think I've got 3 great-grandchildren. Not absolutely sure, but I think so. They are increasing as we speak. Yeah, we were totally different people. Our chemistry was completely different, which was great for research into psychedelic drugs because we reacted in totally different ways. I dream in vivid technicolor. He never dreamt in color. He dreamt always in black and white. He said if color came onto the screen, it would wake him up. I don't think I've ever had a black and white dream in my life. He was a genius about chemistry. He was not a genius about people. But he was so intelligent that he learned fast. It's just that he was the scientist and I was the the psychologist, if you want. We balanced each other absolutely perfectly. At least, I think so. And I think in the 35 or so years we were married, I think we got angry at each other approximately 4 times. I mean, we just didn't waste time. I put the sex in it. And he's a good writer, but I put stuff in that he would never have been able to write about, and so I think my contribution, I'm not modest about it. MDMA is an insight drug. That is its major function, is insight. Insight without self-hatred. It takes away the negative part of insight. It allows you to really love yourself and to appreciate, what you are at your best, and to look at your dark side without blame and without hate and hatred and without humiliation and all those nasty things. With a good psychedelic, you go through your dark side stuff early. Then you break out into connection with the universe in the best possible way. I enjoyed doing that work so much. And I learned so much for the book from those patients. Each patient is a universe, and a total universe, and you have to learn to listen to the language of that universe without any negative judgment. And that takes some practice.
Please welcome Tania Manning.
Oh, it's so good to be here with everybody. Hi, I'm Tania Manning. I was hired by Anne Shulgin to be Sasha's research assistant. Then I became an archivist, steward of the Ethnobotanical Garden, and then I became Anne's research assistant. But most importantly, she was my best friend. We all lived together on the farm, Sasha, Anne, Ted, Greg, and I, and we lived there as a family. Anne was the matriarch of our community. She lived by a set of ethics we call the Code. This was especially important with our underground network. People trusted the Shulgins implicitly, knowing they could confide in them without any hesitation. Anne's unmatched passion for learning, educating, and guiding extended to mentoring many, including myself, in supporting our psychedelic experiences. Sitting with Anne during her journeys was an honor. Her last psychedelic trip was on her 90th birthday. We were blessed to share beautiful adventures, going to Burning Man, Costa Rica, horseback riding together, alongside dear friends, enjoying watching Anne wanting to drive the RV all the way to Burning Man and back, all 3 years. Let's celebrate Sasha and Anne's inclusive generosity and wisdom by honoring their memory through our kind and helpful actions and our willingness to share what we've learned with others.
Please welcome Greg Manning.
Hello, I'm Greg Manning. Tanya and I lived on the Shulgin farm and shared a life of work, travel, affection, and oftentimes zany fun with Anne and Sasha for nearly 2 decades. Today we celebrate Anne Shulgin, whose extraordinary life has had an immeasurable impact on every one of us. Remembering is an art that pays homage to our loved ones, reminding us that love transcends the boundaries of the physical world. Let's pause for a moment to reminisce and remember some of the things that Anne would call thingamabobs. Stuffed animals, steak and kidney pie, scones, never scones, pronounce it scones, boozy cake, creamy eggs, white pumpkins only for Halloween, everything British, especially murder mysteries, and of course, shopping, anywhere, anytime, for anything. Anne's life embodied the profound essence of joy, laughter, and compassion, illuminating the path to a truly fulfilling existence. She had a remarkable talent for genuinely seeing others and making them feel acknowledged. May her legacy ignite a flame within you to embrace life wholeheartedly and truly value your loved ones. Thank you.
Please welcome Phil Wolfson.
Wow. As I meditate on my friend Annie, I am suffused with great gratitude. It began at the end of 1982 with the first MDMA session I had done with my wife at their home. And it changed my clinical career, it changed my personal practice, and as life changed for me, it offered me refuge. Annie was the initiator and the anchor for the development of the psychedelic community. Its first expression was ARUPA, the Association for the Responsible Use of Psychedelic Agents, which was at Esalen. And many of the people, like Rick Doblin, myself, so many of the people who are still doing it, who are still alive, came out of that. And Annie was a fountainhead of organization. She invited me into their family. Wendy became like a daughter. We ran a group together for a year in the city in my practice. One of the darkest moments of my life was when we took refuge with Sasha and Anne and brought my 2 children, my son Noah, who had acute lymphocytic leukemia, to their home. We couldn't tell him what we were going to tell him without their support, which was that we had lost the battle, all options had failed, and he was going to die. And he ran out the back of the Shulgin house and up the hill to that little copse of trees that sits above. They held us, and they held us through his dying. And for that, I have great gratitude. For Annie was a wonderful writer, a thoughtful person, but her pinnacle was her morality, her steadfastness, her devotion to people, her constant loving kindness. I am so grateful to remember Annie for all of her wisdom and well-being. I have great gratitude. Thank you.
Now, a message from Martina Hoffmann.
Dearest Anne, it is truly such an honor to have been invited to speak at your life celebration today. Words always fall so very short when it comes to describing the mark a person has left on the world, especially when it comes to a person such as you, who has given so much to consciousness expansion next to Sasha. And I've thought for a long time how I would like to remember you best, how I can remember you best. And I've decided that it will be through those wonderful traits that distinguish a person beyond her earthly accomplishments. When I think of you, the word regal comes to mind, and you held a very special position as a revered matriarch in our family of seekers and psychonauts. Your noble soul will shine on and forever inspire us. Thank you, Anne, and blessings on your eternal journey.
Please welcome Sabel Rose Regalia.
Hello, friends. My name is Sabel Rose Regalia, and I am a textile artist based in Santa Rosa. And last summer, I had the immense honor of inheriting Anne's glorious fabric stash. Wendy hoped to pass her collection on to an artist who would breathe fresh life into all the notions Anne had once been inspired by. I felt a kindred connection when I saw such vibrant rainbow colors. In fact, there were so many shimmery, sparkly fabrics and buttons and ribbons in these boxes that I started to suspect Anne was maybe secretly a raven. So in an effort to further amplify Anne's cosmic pulse, I created a body of work made from her collection. These quilted portals are an illustration of my admiration for Anne and the beautiful community that continues to blossom among us. There's 2 pieces on display next to the tea house upstairs. They are a gift for Wendy and the Shulgin farm. And these pieces are all on display and available right now until August 7th at a restaurant in Santa Rosa called the Spinster Sisters. You can find show postcards upstairs as well. Thank you so much for such an inspiring and creative opportunity.
Please welcome Donna Torres.
Hi, I'm Donna Torres, an artist and a longtime friend of Anne and Sasha. Manolo and I met Anne in 1992 when we invited Anne and Sasha to a conference in San Luis Potosi, Mexico. It would be the first Plants, Shamanism, and States of Consciousness conference. After reading Pical, we knew Anne had a soft spot for Mexico, so we really hoped they would come. After that, we caught up with them every year for 2 weeks in Palenque. One day in Palenque, we had a neighbor who was having a hard time. He started screaming my name. His wife had disappeared, and he thought that he had left her in the jungle. I ran and got Anne. Immediately, she had given him exactly what he needed. Anne gave people what they needed, even if it wasn't what they wanted. She knew intuitively and through her experience what to do. In future years, Anne took a big interest in my work, promoting it whenever she could. When they were looking for someone to make botanical paintings for the nature of drugs, she and Wendy offered me the job, a job of a lifetime. It was my pleasure to dedicate the next few years studying and painting these plants that had a special meaning for me and others that I knew nothing about. On a visit to California, I took my paintings to Wendy and Anne, and now you can see them in the nature of drugs. So many thanks. I've also felt that Anne was like a second mother to me. The way Anne was a loving support and partner to Sasha was an example for all of us. Thank you, Spirit of Anne, for all the love you provided to me and many others. Thank you.
Please welcome Jason Tucker.
Hello, my name is Jason Tucker. I'm Anne's son-in-law. I first met Anne in Uxmal, Mexico in 1998 at an early ethnobotany conference. When Anne got up to talk, it was not only notable that she was one of the very few women scheduled to speak that week, it was also notable how sincere and matter-of-fact she was when she shared with the group her visions that she had while on a particular psychedelic. Her talk was titled, Places in the Mind. I appreciated how Anne balanced the rational and the mystical. She could share her visions with an attitude of complete acceptance, and how our inner life is just as real as any experience we would have in our outer life. In particular, it was her vision of the goddess Kali that moved me the most. I could feel the energy in the room becoming a little different as she described seeing Kali's presence hovering 15 feet above the ground in front of her. She was so clear in her description of Kali, glowing with her arms outstretched, that ever since, I feel like I saw Kali too. When Wendy and I got married and I got to know Anne's family, spending holidays and vacations together and doing all those family things, Anne and I developed a special bond, and we'd always pick up our ongoing conversations about the paranormal and the supernatural. And Anne loved the movies as much as I do, so we could go on for hours discussing our favorite films. She made life fun. A year ago, on the night before Anne passed, Audrey and Wendy and I sat with Anne and shared stories. Anne would be listening as she floated in and out of consciousness. At one point, I told the story of when I first saw her speak in Ushma, and I brought up her vision of Kali. Anne immediately opened her eyes and nodded her head and gave a big smile. Wendy was holding her hand, and we all felt a burst of her presence as we shared this moment together. I didn't know it then, but that would be the last smile that I would share with Anne, and I'm forever grateful for it. I love you, Anne. Thank you for all your kindness, your caring, and thank you for showing us all how to navigate through the places in the mind. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, Wendy Tucker is Anne's daughter. Please welcome Wendy, who will speak on behalf of Audrey.
First, I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming to honor Mom. She was an amazing person, and we all miss her a lot. Audrey couldn't be here. She's in school in a summer program, so she wrote something to say, and I'll read that now. On the day before her death, when Nana was too weak to talk or move much, I sat next to the bed, holding her hand for a long time, being with her. We sat in silence, alone together, thinking and breathing. At one point, unsure if she was sleeping or not, I leaned in and whispered in her ear, "I want to be like you when I'm older." Her response was very faint. Under her breath, she smiled and said, "Good grief." The next day, only a few hours after she passed away, I started reading Pikal. I skipped to her section of the book, and I was struck with her immense sense of spirituality. Her vision of the spiral, her connection with what she called the friend, and her magical way of looking at life resonated with me in a way that's hard to explain. Although we were very close and I knew her well, hearing her personal voice come through her writing made me realize how similar we are in the way that we think, and how beautiful that way of looking at the world is. Anne and her work resonated with so many people, not just because of her talent in writing and painting, but because of the grace, humor, and generous way with which she existed. Throughout my childhood, she would make the time to come visit almost every week to paint with me. That tradition is something I'm so eternally grateful for, and it shows her giving spirit. I have a suspicion that if that routine wasn't in my life, I might not have been so passionate about pursuing art. When I look at myself, I see how much of a profound influence she's had on me, in art and in life. Even now, she continues to be one of my biggest role models and a source of inspiration. In Pikal, she speaks frequently about the great unknown and expresses such profound love and acceptance for it.
This is how I remember her, the way she gracefully embraced every secret of the universe in the most beautiful way, and every day I strive to think and live with that same sentiment. And I didn't really prepare anything to say, but I just, again, thank everyone for being here. And Mom, we miss you so much, and what a big hole and void you've left, but we're going to fill that space and that void up with love and kindness and grace and carry on your legacy. So thank you.
Please welcome Patricia James.
I'm Patricia James, and I've been a longtime friend of Anne's, and she welcomed me into her family. And I'll be forever grateful. For 3 years, every Easter Sunday and 4th of July, I would go to Anne and ask if she would mentor a group of experienced practitioners. And she always said no. Then one Easter Sunday, she said yes. For the last 10 years, there's been a small group of people getting together at Anne's for what we call like grand rounds. It's a group of people very knowledgeable, skilled practitioners and related fields of medicine, therapy, consciousness, and spirituality. We'd bring our questions, difficult cases we had, conundrums, things we were experiencing and thoughts we had, and we would share them and get the insights from everybody, sharing the table. And all the while we were guided by a greater, more mature source of wisdom, a person of greater experience, a particular kind of specialties that only come when you dive deep into those worlds. And that's the role that Anne played for us. She would sit in her chair, which is on the altar, and she would give her comments with her humor, her wit, her laughter, her twinkle, and her certified Mensa mind. We called ourselves the Tea Party. And we would sit around the kitchen table, have cups of tea, and talk. Also embedded in this gathering was that unspoken legacy of Anne's. She was often the center or the convener of circles, ceremonies, places where contemporary underground practitioners, but particularly women, could gather and speak freely in a safe place during very risky times. This was rare. I'd like to thank the family for sharing Anne with all of us. And it seems that Anne wanted to have the last word. The audio clip you're going to hear momentarily was it was a recording from interviews I did with Anne about a year before her death. And it just popped up in voice, in sync, from my computer. And in a moment, we'll share that, but I'd like to thank, again, the family. I'd like to thank Anne for her life. And Wasiwo, my friend, remember, I'll see you in the shadow of the sun, of the rainbow, where we'll all walk together again. And so, for the last word, here's Anne.
Great. We can call it a day. Well, that was fun. Oh, good. Was it?
Thank you.
We want to end this memorial service for Anne with a hopeful look toward the future. We know that the Shulgin farm is the birthplace of some of our favorite compounds. Through the Shulgin Foundation, we hope to continue Anne's legacy and Sasha's, and to preserve for the future the place that has had such an important role in the past. You can learn more about the foundation through the website that you see on the screen. And now I'd like for Bob Jesse to come and join me at the podium.
Thank you again, everyone, for being here, for getting yourselves here, for your kind attention and open hearts. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Shulgin family for creating space for all of us to be together. Thank you to the Shulgin family for being the Shulgin family. Thank you to the speakers for offering clear and heartfelt glimpses of your relationships with Anne Shulgin in particular. And I'd like to invite us now just to take a moment with your eyes closed, if that's comfortable, to let Anne show up however Anne will show up in your mind and hearts. Thank you, Anne, for all of your great gifts, your friendship, your wisdom, and your courage as a pioneer. There are so many more stories to be told, and everyone here has some. So we have the facility and wonderful food provided by so many of you until about 4 o'clock, which is plenty of time. So I'd like to invite you now to gather your things and go ahead and leave the hall as we happen to hear in the background one of Anne Shulgin's favorite songs. Thank you again.